Robert Pattinson explains how he interprets Batman's famed no-kill rule. The Batman, which will be released in March, stars Pattinson as the Dark Knight. He'll portray Batman, Bruce Wayne, in the Matt Reeves directed film, making him the 13th actor to play the character in live action. Throughout the years, one of Batman's most defining characteristics has been his refusal to murder his enemies. From the campy Adam West Batman to more recent iterations played by Michael Keaton and Christian Bale, nearly every version of the character has followed this criteria. Ben Affleck's Batman, possibly the most violent rendition of the character on screen, who has been seen to kill and even use guns, is an exception to this rule, weapons that other versions of Batman typically avoid. For years, fans have debated whether or not Batman should kill, and now Pattinson has added his 2 cents. Pattinson explores the psychology behind his version of Batman, notably the character's no-kill rule, in an interview with the French magazine Premiere. Along with describing how he addressed this part of Batman, Pattinson also stated that he could only have played a superhero if he was given the freedom to explore the character's darker side. Pattinson recently addressed Bruce Wayne's rule about not killing, saying, "There is this rule with Batman, he must not kill. It can be interpreted in 2 ways. Either he only wants to inflict the appropriate punishment, or he wants to kill and his self-control prevents him from doing so." Anyone else getting the shivers? Well, even casual fans are aware that Batman does not kill. This is a very realistic and gloomy interpretation of that rule. Robert Pattinson's character appears to want to slaughter the many Gotham City goons he encounters, but strangely, manages to restrain himself. Now we'll have to wait and see how Pattinson's worldview influences his performance in the highly anticipated film. According to Robert Pattinson's statements to Premiere, the Dark Knight would once again avoid killing during the course of the Batman. Fans of the DC character will no doubt be ecstatic to hear this news, as it indicates that the project will be based on the comics. In projects like Batman vs Superman, Ben Affleck's earlier version didn't follow this norm, so it's a welcome return to form. Later in that same interview, Robert Pattinson discussed his sentiments about Batman's no-kill rule on the page and on film. Bruce Wayne's heroics are fueled by personal pain and inner darkness, which is part of what makes him such an intriguing vigilante. Robert Pattinson then went on to say, "I imagined that way from the rehearsal of the first fight, I thought it was funnier. Something in him just wanted to slit the guy's throat. I told myself that if he spends his nights chasing criminals, it is impossible that he does not take pleasure in it. He suffers, and it is a desire that overwhelms him." Well, that right there is pretty deep, and made us realize and understand more on this precious rule of Batman. And lastly, Pattinson continued, "And by dint of knocking, his mind clears. He calms down, he reaches a state close to plenitude. I'm sure in his first fight, he manages to convince himself that every guy in front of him is the one who killed his mother, and so that allows him to vent all his rage." The interesting thing is that this Batman practically lives in the gutter. He's nowhere at home except on the street when he's wearing the suit. He lives a criminal life, but without committing crimes. I felt like I could get something out of that. Anyway, I could only play a superhero if he was really dirty. Although there is no easy solution to whether or not Batman should kill, it's fascinating to watch how Pattinson has incorporated that topic into his portrayal of the character. For his side, Batman wants to kill, even implying that he believes every criminal he battles is the person who murdered his parents. But he manages to keep a sliver of self-control to keep himself from doing so. It appears that the only thing that separates Pattinson's Bruce from the criminals he fights in the Batman is his ability to control his wrath. It's a razor-thin line that Batman has walked for decades. When Pattinson's Dark Knight eventually hits the big screen, it'll be interesting to see how close he comes to crossing the line. Well, aside from this, we all know how dark the whole Batman is. That's why he's probably called the Dark Knight. Am I right? Aside from moving in the dark, of course. But during the 1990s, Warner Brothers hired Joel Schumacher to make lighter Batman movies, and in which Batman 2022 will prove and set the darkest Batman to be released. In 2022, Bruce Wayne is set for his darkest night yet. The Dark Knight's 2022 calendar demonstrates Joel Schumacher's 90s approach as 3 great actors prepare to play Batman in live-action films. Although Adam West launched DC's Caped Crusader to the big screen in 1966, Michael Keaton's cinematic career did not begin until Tim Burton directed Michael Keaton's Batman in 1989. In 1995, Joel Schumacher and Val Kilmer dethroned Burton and Keaton, but a cameo with George Clooney's Batman spurred yet another relaunch of the franchise. After directing Christian Bale in the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan had immense success, while Ben Affleck's DCEU iteration had more mixed results, leaning towards the negative. Robert Pattinson is set to take up the role of Batman in 2022. Michael Keaton, too, as well as Ben Affleck the Batman, a standalone DC film directed by Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson as the titular character, will premiere in March 2022. Ezra Miller returns in Warner Bros. DCEU, the Flash film, a few months later. The Scarlet Speedster will be joined by an older version of Keaton's Bruce Wayne from the Tim Burton films, as well as Affleck, who will be reprising his role. Overall, 2022 is shaping up to be a major year for the Justice League's moodiest member. Batman has crossed the whole range of superhero tones over his several cinematic adventures, resulting in some of the darkest, most serious comic book adaptations ever filmed, as well as some near unwatchable collisions of camp and cringe. When Joel Schumacher replaced Tim Burton as the director of the Batman film in 1995, the tone of the franchise shifted dramatically. But as Bruce Wayne's record-breaking year at the box office began, it's evident how mistaken the Light Knight era was. Guess it's safe to say that Warner didn't understand the assignment. Tim Burton was the ideal option to bring Batman's world to life in 1989, despite his lack of knowledge with DC's source material. Bruce Wayne's 1980s comic book shenanigans, which featured Alan Moore's groundbreaking The Killing Joke, a graphic novel that heavily impacted Michael Keaton's Batman debut, were well matched to the director's innate penchant for all things murky and frightening. For Batman Returns in '92, Burton delved even further into the abyss, incorporating more of the eccentric, gothic, horror-tinged aspects present throughout the kooky Tim's filmography. The bleak tone of Batman Returns irritated Warner Bros. Tremendously. Not only did Tim Burton's Batman sequel gross less money than the first, but sponsors, most notably McDonald's, were furious at having marketing tie-ins to a film in which the Penguin tries to blow up children, and Catwoman transforms into a psychotic Edward Scissorhands with a vendetta against stuffed animals. Parents and conservative groups were outraged that McDonald's would promote such brutality, putting public relations department on overload and sparking a debate about whether Batman films should be aimed primarily at youngsters rather than bloodthirsty adults and die-hard comic book fans. During the mid-1990s, Warner Bros. Was clearly leaning toward the former, with one anonymous representative telling, "If you bring back Burton and Keaton, you can't expect Honey, I Shrunk the Batman." Burton elaborated on his Batman departure in 2014 interview with Yahoo, where he revealed, "I think I upset McDonald's. What's the black stuff coming out of the Penguin's mouth? We can't sell Happy Meals with that." They wanted to go with something more child or family friendly. This all-new Batman movie is probably worth the wait, hoping we get to see a darker and truer side of Batman. The Batman release date has changed over a bunch of times. The movie was initially intended to enter theaters on June 25, 2021. However, due to the coronavirus pandemic, the film's premiere was postponed until October of 2021. However, in September, a crew member was diagnosed with COVID, forcing filming to halt production and rescheduling the cinema release date. The film will now be released on March 4th, 2022. If Batman vs. Superman is excluded, this is the first solo Batman film in a decade. The Dark Knight Rises was released in 2012, making it the longest Bat film hiatus since Tim Burton's Batman debuted. Now, that's a wrap. We are all looking forward to this new approach for Batman. What are your thoughts for this new Batman movie? Let us know in the comment section down below. We hope you guys liked this video. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.